You're watching the AM show, and thank you for staying with us. Well, as government embarks on a regional quota recruitment into the security service to create opportunity for all, what's really the socio-political impact of this move, and how does this change the face of security in the country? Plus, really, the twists and turns in the fight against Galam, as small-scale miners also call out some political actors and demand the return of the unlawful seizure of their excavators and an end to extortion. Now, joining us today on phone is Professor Kwesi Aning, who is a security consultant. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, so this one, I want a bit of education this morning, and I'd want to do some learning even before we get into the details of security implications. What does it really mean when the government says that they want to decentralize recruitment? Would it be very different from the kind of reforms that we have seen in the past or over the years?
No, I think it's an enhancement and an improvement, bringing recruitment to the doorstep of people, bringing regional balance, giving everybody an opportunity to serve Ghana. But I think it's all an aspect of deepening national integration and ensuring that we have a rounded security agencies that responds to the needs and expectations of the people of Ghana.
Are there any risk and consequences at all?
Well, I mean, if we have that attitude, we can always see risk and negative aspects. I want to see this as a positive, open, transparent process in which the notion of protocol recruitment, I am a big woman, I am a big man, do you know who I am? Take my child. Okay, we have histories of excessive protocol enlistment of people who are not qualified, being accepted, and some very unfortunate, tragic incidents happening. So let's give everybody who is qualified a chance. We're going to centralize this. It's not everybody who can travel to either Accra, Kumasi. Okay, so for me, anything that broadens the base for engagement and recruitment, that is fair and reflective of the people who make up the diversity of this country. Then that's very interesting.
Okay. Prof, while you recognize that this is quite good, would you also say that this country currently, do we need it at all? Is it an emergency? Do we need it?
Need what? An increase in the numbers? We don't have enough numbers.
Okay.
And if you do a threat assessment or the possible challenges that we face in this country, or that we can potentially face in terms of the security conundrum that we find ourselves in, then I think we need the recruitment. But it's not just the recruitment. Adequate equipment, appropriate equipment, that better intelligence, an improved doctrine. And I think we have a new set of military leaders who seem to have their finger on the pulse. Now, and I know, that in the last couple of years, there's been quite some disturbing levels of corruption at the very height of the armed forces. We experience the excessive brutalities across this country. And if you follow the story, there's been this case of some really run-down armored tanks that were purchased and sent to South Sudan. So there's a whole new need for reflection and for saying, how do we build an armed forces that is responsive to the ever-changing, both domestic and external threats? We have not been able to deal very well with Galamsey, Rosewood, all sorts of things. Now, if you look at challenges of Accra dollar power and it raises fundamental questions as to why these things have been allowed to go on.
Yeah.
Because if you combine what is in the National Security Strategy document plus what is in the Security and Intelligence Services Act 1030, plus what is in the Signals Act, then people have failed us in this country horribly. Because what the issues inside those documents have not been used to protect the people of this country. And that is why I'm talking about issues around doctrine and new leadership, recruitment that focuses on building a team of Ghanaians who have voluntarily decided to dedicate their lives to protecting all of us. So from where I sit, I think it's very necessary.
I mean, you have talked about the Ghana Armed Forces. Let's explore the leadership of the other security agencies and how much they have a grip on personnel and even operations. And I ask this because of the decentralization. On the outlook, do you think that they would have much or major grip on the decentralization bit of this?
Well, why shouldn't they? I mean, if they don't have a grip on the decentralization, because the planning, the design would have been done in consonance with the leaders of these institutions. So let leaders lead. Let them be bold enough to speak up. Okay?
Yes.
And I know that being a leader who speaks up, okay, who wants to stop corruption and theft in his institution, who wants to stop mafia-style behavior, who wants to say these are the principles and the norms and the values that we have, so I want to apply them. That leader will not become friends to people. Okay? But even when there's resistance, those leaders must tell their stories. So don't sit down and let the political class do things, and then you come back later and tell us, there was an order from above. If that order from above does not fit the ethos of your institution and your belief as to how the institution must be led to deliver, then you are not fit for purpose. So I believe that the leaders of all the allied institutions will play a critical role in the discussions going on and the implementation of those discussions. Otherwise, then we cannot come down or come back 2 days later and then to say that, there was political interference, and therefore leaders in this country must start the process of standing up and protecting their institutions and driving them the way they want the institutions to be driven and to achieve the set objectives.
Well, Prof, it's interesting that you even talked about Galamsey and how we're fighting it earlier. Now, just yesterday, the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, they have a concern. They say that in the name of tax force, they have had some rogue persons posing as tax force and they're extorting from them, seizing their excavators as well. And they're calling for an end to this. Before we get into that, tell me as of today.
I have only 10 minutes because I need to examine my students now.
Okay. We'll just wrap on this particular one, especially because I want to know how you would assess currently the security apparatus and their grip on the fight against the Galamsey generally in the natural resources sector.
Look, I think there must be root and branch reform and design of the involvement of different security agencies in the Galamsey fight. The Galamsey fight does not only threaten our environment, the economy, people's lives, but it threatens the efficacy and the sanctity of the institutions, all the institutions that are involved. I think your station has demonstrated over time the corruption and the collusion of different institutions who have been sent to fight Galamsey rather becoming corrupted. I think Erastus Donko's world-class, interviews and exposés, proves that point. The Constitution is clear about the formation of armed forces and other allied security services. Now, I have made clear that establishing alternative and competing task forces, that in which some of them have the powers of the police, but are not of the police, is creating danger for us into the future, because it will result in disarmament processes that are always fraught with tensions, misunderstandings, and violence. The demobilization of such people, and the question becomes, how do we reintegrate them into society? Where? And the cost. So I think that the rush to establish all these task forces and knowing the kind of people we are and our love for the allure of gold and corruption, that without careful planning, we are laying the basis. Eventually, when we want to disarm for alternative armed forces, willing and prepared to take the fight to us.
Well, Prof, I'd let you go and conduct that exams this morning. Thank you so much for making time for us here on the AM show today. It's quite a developing story, and we'll definitely come to you whenever we can. Thank you so much.
Yes, please. Yes, please. And thank you so very much. Thank you.
You're watching the AM show. Do stay with us. There's more on the show.